More About Seeds from Look About You, Book 3 by Thomas W. Hoare, taken from Gutenberg Project, read by Siphon. It was raining in torrents outside, and the boys were a little upset inside, for it was Saturday. They always looked forward to Saturday, for it was their great rambling day. "I'm afraid we can't get out today," said Frank, sadly. "I'm afraid not," said his uncle. "But that is no reason why we should sulk. We have those maize seeds to look over, and by the time we have done that, perhaps the rain will have stopped." While Frank and Tom were bringing the boxes of seeds, Uncle George and Dolly were busy getting out knives, glasses, mounted needles, and the books they made their notes and sketches in. There were 4 small boxes in all. Each box had been sown with maize or Indian corn at times a week apart, so that the plants in one box were 5 weeks old, and the next 4 weeks old, and so on. "We will begin as we did with the bean. Let us cut the seed open first." As he spoke, Uncle George laid some soaked maize seeds on the table. "If you look at these seeds carefully, you will notice a large mark on one of the flat sides of each." "I see it," said Frank. "It is shaped something like a cone, and its broad end is at the narrow end of the seed." "It is lighter in color than the rest of the seed," said Tom. "You are both right," said their uncle. "Now, I want you to cut the seed long ways, right down through the middle of that mark. Then use your glass and tell me what you see." "Look closely," said Uncle George. "First into one half and then into the other." "Oh, I see something like a tiny plant," said Tom. "It is shut off from a great mass of what looks like flat plant food, just like our wheat grains." Tom made a rough sketch of it and showed it to his uncle. "That is the baby plant, and the great mass above it is plant food," said his uncle. "Come on, Frank. Don't let Tom do all the finding out. What have you to say?" "The maize seeds has only one mass of plant food, and it does not seem to have 2 seed coats like the bean," Tom replied. "You are right," said Uncle George, "but if you look again, you will see that there is a thick layer of food stuff outside, which is of a different color from the rest. This is like the bran layer which is round the food stored in the wheat grain. This food stored is starch, or as we call it, flour. Now, let us look at the growing seeds. We'll take a few seeds out of each box and see how they differ. The seeds in this box, the last sown, are just a 38-week old. You see the root and shoot are just beginning to show. Make a sketch, drawing it as large as you can, and write under it, "Maize seed after a week's growth." Do the same with a seed from each of the other 3 boxes, and when you have drawn them all, tell me of any differences you notice between the growth of maize and that of the bean. "They do not grow in the same way at all," said Frank, as he drew his last sketch. "In the maize seed, the baby plant seems to be stuck onto one of the flat sides of the seeds." "What about the roots, Frank?" "Oh, yes, I see that," Frank went on. "The root branches out all at once in the maize seed. In some of these seeds, the main root has scarcely grown at all. Their roots are all branch roots. And in the oldest plants, one great leaf rolls round the shoot and hides it," said Tom. "In the bean shoot, we saw 2 leaves quite plainly." "Quite right, Tom. Now, boys, compare your drawing with those you made of the bean. I will grow a maize and a bean seed together so that you can watch the growth of both and compare them day by day." Uncle George then got an empty pickle bottle and poured some water into it. Then he took a soaked bean seed, and having run a thread through it with a needle, he hung it inside the bottle. He then corked the bottle and placed it in the window. He next took an old lamp chimney and made a roll of blotting paper to fit the inside of it. The roll of paper was stuffed with moss. A few maize seeds were pushed in between the glass and the paper, and the lamp chimney was placed in a source full of water in the window. "Now, boys," said Uncle George, "I want you to watch these seeds every day. If you do so, you will learn how a seed grows into a plant, and you will learn this not from me, but the plant itself." Uncle George filled a wide bottle with water from the tap and fixed one of the 5-week-old maize plants in it by means of a split cork. "I want you to watch this plant growing," he said, as he placed the bottle in the window. "You ought to draw it once a week. Most people think that the plants draw their food chiefly from the soil. This is a great mistake. Plants take most of their food from the air. As you will see if you watch the growth of this plant, of course, it has a good food source in the seeds. But I think you will be surprised at the growth it makes from that food store, the bottle of tap water, and the air." The end.